Hello?
Hi there.
I
How are you?
good.
Okay, let me just get the slides up. Okay, and now I should be able. Hmm, I'm not seeing the usual share stuff at the top of the screen.
I, I, I don't, you're not sharing. I see you, I don't see the slides.
Okay, got it. Um,
So go back into Zoom and
yeah, yeah, and share. Okay, now do you see slides?
yeah, now I do.
Okay, and now I'm gonna switch that. So I think we're good there. Webinar chat. I'll move that into place. Good. Let me try and move the slides.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay,
Okay.
good to go.
Are you good?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to start, as soon as it clears,
Actually, give me one more minute.
okay.
It's not public source. Okay, I'm back.
Okay, you good?
Yeah, all
All right.
set. Mhm. I just can't- Mhm.
Hello. Welcome to Northfield's December month-end research webinar. I'm Sean Ledger. I'll be the host today. In a minute, we'll hear from Northfield President Dan DiBartolomeo, who will be presenting Addressing Regime Shifts in Factory Turns. Before I hand it over to Dan, I want to remind you how the webinar works. If you have any questions today, please post them in the chat box on the right side of the screen. If Dan doesn't answer all your questions, he'll answer them personally after the event with the email address you registered with. If you experience any issues with the internet audio stream, please call into the conference call. Conference call information will be posted in the chat box. Also, a recording of the presentation and the slide deck will be sent to everyone who registered for the webinar today, which we hope you'll forward along to your colleagues. Okay, now I'd like to introduce Dan DiBartolomeo. Dan?
Thank you, Sean. Good morning to those of you in the Americas. Good afternoon to those in Europe and the Middle East. And as I usually say, for those of you in Asia Pacific or Australia, please go back to sleep and watch the recording at your convenience. Today's topic is about regime shifts in factor returns. This is a topic that we occasionally get questions about from clients. And it's a very general topic in quantitative asset management in general, because it really gets to the heart of a very simple question, which is how much does the world change over time? So let me just sort of take you through a bit of what motivated this. The first is that most quant strategies are not security specific. They're about some common property of a large set of securities within some allowable universe. And different people use the term differently, but I'm going to call that common characteristic for today's purposes a factor. It's something that people seem to believe is in common across many securities. We then create investment strategies by trying to forecast the returns and the risks associated with each of these factors going forward in time. Obviously, our investment outcomes are in the future, not in the past. Now, these forecasts typically are obtained from some sort of analytical model, some set of equations that hopefully explain how things have operated in the past. Essentially, the equations are meant to capture some sort of a pattern among the historical observations of these factor returns. And so if we're going to use some mathematical description of how things have gone up to this point in time, one of the things we obviously have to decide is how far back in time do we want to use the observations. We might say, well, I only want to use the last 2 weeks of data, or maybe it's the last 20 years of data. And there's pros and cons either way. In some sense, if I go back further, I have a larger data set, I have a larger data sample, that may make it easier to get statistically significant results or to find patterns. On the other hand, including older data where there have been regime shifts subsequent, that is, the old data is no longer relevant because the world has changed in some meaningful way, then building our forecasting models and the estimates that come from those forecasting models may be worse rather than better, because we're in effect polluting our data with data that is no longer relevant because things have changed. So in this talk today, really what I'm going to try and do is talk you through just a couple of very simple methods that people use for determining the amount of history to use when analyzing a factor return time series. In sort of classical statistics, we would say we want to use as much data as we can back to the point in history where there may have been some significant structural change. Things are now different, and we obviously want to build our model on the data that is relevant rather than the data that is no longer relevant. The first discussion I want to do is about a technique known as QSUM. This has been around for nearly 100 years and has been used in a number of investment applications. And I'll talk about those a little bit. The middle portion of the talk is really going to be about a modified version of something called a Wald-Wolfowitz test. And the way I've laid out the Wald-Wolfowitz test and changed it from its sort of textbook definition is specific to the idea of doing time series analysis rather than just random data that I'm trying to sort of understand may or may not have come from the same distribution. But in this case, I'm going to use very specifically an adaptation of the Wald-Wolfowitz idea that's appropriate to